And welcome back, everybody, to Asmodeah City. This is Lord Giarth with you with another Foundry Virtual Tabletop Basics video. And today we're going to be talking about dynamic lighting. And what does that mean? So essentially, if you have a map that, let's say, has a town square in the middle of it, and at night you want lights to turn on automatically, and then during the day you want them to turn off automatically. This just adds, I'm telling you, this adds an incredible level of realism and excitement for your players on your maps. It's just incredible what it does. So let's get into that. We're going to talk about how to create dynamic lighting in just a moment. Okay, and welcome back. Again, Lord Giarth with you here at Asmodeah City. And again, please do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and hit that bell so that you're notified of all the new videos that are coming out. I have a ton of them that are on the way, and some of them are going to be for players, some are for DMs that are running the VTTs. We are coming out, we are going to be doing some on Roll20 and some others as well. So please hit that button. The subscribe button, hit that like button, and leave us a comment too. That always helps the algorithm for YouTube to help us grow this channel and get it out to more people. It'd be awesome if you'd do that for us. So today we're talking about dynamic lighting. And what is dynamic lighting? Dynamic lighting means that a light or an item and a light will turn on when it gets dark, and then will turn off when it gets light. And there are other ways that you could use that as well. There are some other tools I'm not going to go into in this video. I'm just going to go into the basics. But there are some other tools too that, for example, if you're walking by a particular light, it'll trigger it. So there are modules that get out there and do that. But today I'm just looking at the basics here, and we'll get into the bigger pieces of that later. So you're looking at one of my Foundry virtual tabletop servers. And you see I've got this little test world here. I just kind of created it to make it easy. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that. And we have essentially just my buddy Gendon sitting here, and that's his old photo. That's there. For those of you that have seen some of my other videos, you know who Gendon is. So anyway, he's standing, let's just imagine he's standing in the center of a town square. And it's getting dark outside. Now, how do you do the dark part? And a lot of people don't even realize this. I know I didn't until I started kind of messing with it a little bit. This light icon here, that's your lighting controls, if you click that, and then you click on this little moon, and watch what happens. When I click on it, it slowly fades into darkness, and so now it's nighttime. Now, there are some other very cool modules like Small Time. I'll leave a link to that in the description for you that will kind of allow you to change the time in your game, and depending on the time, it will get darker or lighter. So now you can see, I mean, if I look at Gendon now and I try to move him around, he is in the dark. He is dark, dark, dark. There's nothing. And I actually have set on him, just so that it made it easy, a vision of 20 feet so that he theoretically can see 20 feet dimly in the dark. If I was to add 20 feet of bright onto him and I update it, it gets a little brighter because he's now but it's dark. It's dark outside. So let me go ahead and change this back to daytime, and you can see when I click this little sun icon, it turns things ever so slightly, it fading into light, and so now we're back into daytime. All right, so I'm going to turn off the view or the vision for Gendon here by just setting, I wanted to set it both to that. I'm going to set these both to 0. And so now he's got no vision around him. Now, this fog of war is here, and you can reset that, obviously. This represents, he's already seen this area, and let me zoom out a little bit. He's already seen this area, and so it essentially makes it gray for him like normal. And if I move him around into some of these other areas, you'll see, those areas that he's discovered, he kind of sort of has memory of. So it makes it grayed out. But if I want to change that or reset it, I can click the lighting control, click this little cloud, and it'll say this will reset the fog of war for this scene for all players. And that's important to know. It's not selective for just this Buddy Gendon here. It's for everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and reset that. And then if I go back to looking at him and I click on him, he is in the dark. There's nothing that he can see at this point. You can see where he's standing, but just barely, right? All right, so I'm going to go back into the map here, and I'm going to do a couple of things that will make this really cool for you and your players. Now, first thing that we want to do is we want to create an item. So I go to this little item icon. This is your, tiles. This is a tile control. The items are different. Sorry, my bad. And so I'm going to go to the tile controls. I'm going to click on this place a tile. And I'm just going to create a quarter size. Let me zoom in here a little bit. I'm going to create a quarter of a grid size tile. And I'm going to change that image to be, and I have I'll leave a link down in the description to these, the custom tokens. And I have a whole video, I'll put the tile up there. I have a whole video on using custom tokens in your map. It just completely changes your maps. Maps can be so boring, and walking into a room and saying to your players, okay, and on the left-hand side of the room, you see a cabinet. And well, but if you don't see a cabinet, it's like, okay, it's all theater of the mind, which I get, I understand, but I digress. I think it's just better to spruce it up. So anyway, I've got some tokens here, and I've got these furniture packs. And again, I'll leave a link down to where you can get them. They're super cheap and they're so cool. So I'm gonna, I think is it furniture or furniture 3? Let me look here. Yeah, I think it's furniture 3. So I'm gonna go back up and go to furniture 3. And I'm looking for a lantern. And that lantern should be, there it is. Okay. So here's a lantern. Okay. So I'm going to select this lantern as this artwork for this particular tile. And by the way, for those of you that don't know this, if you let me select here, if you click on it and you hold the shift key down and rotate your mouse button, you can move this so that it's in different directions. I don't know if you knew that. So, okay, now we've got our little lantern, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a light source on this lantern. So let me go back here. I'm going to click on my lighting controls, and I've got this selected up here to draw a light source. And I'm just going to hold I'm going to hold the mouse button down, and I'm going to drag it. And you'll notice it doesn't go right on top of that, but I'll show you how to fix that in a second. I'm going to make this I'm going to make it about 10 feet. All right, so now it's a light source and it's 10 feet. Now, in order to get this right onto my lantern, I'm going to start to move it. I'm going to click the left mouse button, hold it. I'm going to start to drag it, and then I'm going to hold the shift key, and now I'm going to place it right on top of that lantern. And I let go of the mouse button. Don't let it go to the shift key or it'll snap to the grid. And there we go. So now we've got it literally right on top of that lantern. So now let's configure this light. Let's make it look like a lantern, shall we? All right, so as for the lighting animation, I'm going to make it a torch, but what I really want to do is I want to turn down, and you'll notice it's already pulsating over there. So I'm going to turn down the animation a little bit as far as speed, because lanterns don't get as much of a windy source on them, so they probably don't flicker as much as a torch would as you're carrying it and it's getting blown around by air around it. So I just turn it down a little bit, and I'm going to turn up the animation intensity just a bit. And what that does is it makes that pulsation a little bit more intense as it goes out. Not brighter, but more intense. All right, so now I'm going to go back to basic configuration up here in the top left, and let's change the color. So let's change it to like a burnt orange color. Now, your tendency is going to want to be to select like a really bright color like this. And let me show you what happens. The problem is that really brightens up that light too much. And then it really makes it like too intense. It's like too much. So what I tend to do is I tend to bring this down, and I make it, you'll notice it's kind of like a darker orange color now. And now it just gives it more, I don't know, of a pulsating effect that isn't as much bright as it is colorful. So I'm going to turn that color intensity up just a hair as well. We'll make it 7. So now you can see that light's getting pretty good. So it looks like it's a burning light source, which is pretty cool. Now, here is the cool part. This is the part that makes it work the way we want to dynamically. These two numbers down here at the bottom are the darkness activation range. Now, this is absolutely no darkness to absolutely 100% dark. That's what those represent. And I know it took me a while to kind of wrap my head around that a little bit, but basically it's absolutely no darkness to absolutely dark. That's the bottom line. So we clearly want it to be on when it's absolutely dark. But what we want to do, and in this range right now means, if there's no darkness, then it's on. If there's 100% darkness, it's on. So essentially it's on all the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to, I'm just going to make it 0.6. So when it's 60% dark, essentially, it's going to turn on. But when it's below 60% dark, it's going to turn off. So I hope that makes sense. Again, it took me a little time to wrap my head around this a little bit, because we're talking about the absence of darkness as opposed to complete darkness. So it's almost like, think of it as black. If darkness is black, the absence of black or the presence of black, that's essentially the way you look at it. So I'm going to set this to be 0.6. All right. So now I'm going to update that light source. Now you notice it goes off. And the reason it goes off is because it's fully bright outside. It's daytime. So now watch what happens when I click this moon and I transition to darkness. And I'm going to turn off that little square or the circle, and watch what happens. When it hits 60%, boom, the light comes on. So now Gendon's no longer in the dark. He doesn't have to pull a torch. At least he's standing in a place where he doesn't have to, right? And so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to hit the light source again, and I'm going to select transition to daytime, and watch what happens. As it starts to get lighter, the light goes off. Okay, so there's your dynamic light. Now, here's the interesting part. And I kind of discovered this by accident, but here's the cool part about the item itself. So now we have the light source that does that. That's really cool. But do we really want this lantern to be sitting out in the middle of nowhere? Let's assume you had a town square and they have those, stands with little hooks on them, and some town person comes out and lights all these lanterns and hangs them all up in the areas where it needs to be lit, so that people passing through the town or the city can see where they're walking, right? So let's just assume that's what they were doing. So we don't necessarily want this lantern to be there all the time. Now, by default, when you are looking at an item, you can't change whether it comes on whether it's visible or it's not visible dynamically. I mean, you could change this tile opacity, but you'd have to, I could turn this down to nothing and update the tile, and now it's not here, but I don't want to have to go do that manually for, an entire group of these tiles every time I want to make it dark or I want to make it light. So what I want to do is I'm going to turn on, and I have these here. I'm going to go into my setup, and I'm going to go into manage modules here. And I'm just going to show you, I've got no modules activated right now. So I'm doing this all just with the plain Jane vanilla Foundry VTT. Now, let me add this one module. And this is a module that I found the other day. It's called Darkness Activated Tiles. Now, it says that it's only good, and as of this recording, we're using version 9 of Foundry VTT. I know version 10 is coming out very soon. So this says it only works with 8.8, but I've tried it and it works fine. So with my 9, it seems to do well. So I'm hoping it will stay this way. But I think this is a really cool little module to help out. So I'm going to turn on this darkness activated tiles option. So I'm going to save that and it's going to restart my game for me. And let's get back to good buddy Gendon here. All right. So looking at the items here, so I've got this tile that's still here, and I'm going to double click on it, and I think it just remembered that I set it to an opacity of 0, and I'm going to update my tile. All right, so now I've got this lantern sitting here. Now I want this lantern to go away as well when it's dark, and I want it to come back when it's light. So now with this cool little module turned on, if I double click that, you'll see now we have this darkness activation range available to us on the tile itself. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to 0.6, just like I have the light source. And 1 is obviously completely dark. I'm going to update that tile. All right. So now when I go back here and I'm looking at it from a player perspective, essentially, you'll notice it dims itself out. It's not here anymore as far as the players are concerned. So if I click on Gendon, even if he stands right next to it or even stands right on it, and then he walks away, you can see, I can see it as the GM, but he can't see it as the player. So let's make it back to our nighttime. So we'll set it back to nighttime and watch what happens. Now all of a sudden it gets to be, once it gets to be 60%, boom. We've got both the item and the light source turning on automatically. Now, what's even easier about this, if you really want to kind of get into it and be able to make this happen, let's say, all the way up a pathway or all the way around the center of town or what have you, is you can take this item selection tool, grab this or click on it, and I'm using a PC, Control-C, Control-V. Now I got another one, and I'm going to drop it here. And I got Control-C, Control-V, and I'm going to drop another one, put it here. And let's move this one down here, shall we? And actually, by the way, in case you didn't know, you'll notice this will snap to the corners of a grid. If I put it in the center and let go, it just kind of snaps to the corner. But if I move it and then I hold the shift key, I can put it dead center in that tile, and I let go of my mouse button, and boom, it's wherever I want it to be. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to make this all the way around. And let's do here. And so he's going to be surrounded by these. Oh, there's another one behind him. All right, I'm going to hold the shift key down. I'm going to hold it and then let go of my mouse key, and boom. Now I've got these here. Now let's go to our light sources, and we've already got them configured up, ready to go. So let's move this one right on. Again, I'm holding the shift key. I'm going to move it right onto that lantern, and then I'm going to hit Control-C, Control-V, and then I'm going to move this one, hold the shift key down, go right on there, Control-V. I'm going to go again right on, holding the shift key down, and then Control-V, and I'm going to go right on and hold the shift key down, and there we go. All right, so now we've got duplicated items and duplicated light sources. So now let's see what happens to his ability to see in nighttime when the sun goes down. So we should be hitting right about, yeah, there we go. We hit the 60% mark, and it's all there, and your animations are looking pretty cool. You got that kind of a burnt orange color going on, and Gendon can now see around him. So that's it, folks. That's dynamic lighting. It's really cool and really spruces, I'm telling you, it spruces up your maps quite a bit. I'll do a video also on the small time module, which I think actually is super helpful to allow you to manage daytime, nighttime, and playtime in your maps and in your adventures as well. I think that's super helpful. So this is it. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, suggestions, put them down in the comments below, please, would you? And also, again, as usual, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and smash that bell so that you get notified of all these videos as they start to come out. And as always, when you're adventuring, be safe, be careful, and be kind. Peace.